We're going to record this session, so if you wanted to remember any of the insights you gained or any of the knowledge that you learned today, we'll be sending that out later. So welcome. We are so excited to introduce you to our wonderful panelists. But first, we're going to tell you just a little bit about what we're going to do today. So my name is Laura Del Prado. I work at the UVA Career Center. I'm part of the Who's Internship Accelerator professional development team, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Lizzie and Kyle. And Lizzie and Kyle, I guess, Kyle, did you want to just share a little bit about you, and we'll pass it over to Lizzie?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Kyle Hodges, and I'm an assistant director for the business and technology community here in the Career Center. So we're super excited to have y'all today, and I will pass it over to Lizzie.
Hey everyone, my name is Elizabeth, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I work with the public service and government career community as a career counselor. So I've been emailing a lot of you, so it's nice to put some faces to names, and we're really excited for our session today.
Thank you, Lizzie, and thank you for the pronoun reminder. My pronouns are she, her, hers as well. All right, so basically I want to just share with you all the purpose of this session. The purpose of this session tonight is to help you learn about the importance of networking and relationship building, to practice building relationships, and thus also to help you build out your network. We have 4 different components of our session tonight. I'm actually going to throw those into the chat just for those of you who might be visual learners. So we're going to start with a panel. We're going to then go into networking and breakout rooms where you actually will have your own networking group and you'll get to talk with a UVA alum. Then we'll have a debrief, and then at the very end, we'll have optional open networking. And I meant to say 15 minutes for that one, so I'll put 15 in there. But please, we know that we've said this event will end at 6, so you're not obligated to stay at the end, but we also know that in live, in-person events, nobody closes your room and you instantaneously go somewhere else, right? We wanted to mimic that opportunity to kind of still chat with a few people if you would like to. All right, so we are going to start with our first section, which is our panel. So I'm going to start with just defining how we're going to talk about networking today. So my absolute favorite networking quote is my first thing I did in my career after I graduated college was I worked at Disney, and they had a professional development series where I met my mentor. Her name is Penny. We called her Coach Penny. And she said, networking, it's not about what you know or who you know, but who knows you. And that always stood out to me. And so I'm curious if in the chat, could you all just share, how do you define networking and relationship building? What does it mean to you? So feel free, go ahead. Let's just get the conversation started. How do you define networking? Learning from mentors, advertising yourself, building professional relationships. All right. Interacting with other professionals, reaching out to people, connecting with others in your field or industry, learning from people's experiences. All right, so we have a lot of different really good definitions. The definition I'm going to propose for us today for our panel discussion is networking is the process of building mutually beneficial relationships. And so the 2 key reasons that we have dedicated an entire professional development session to this, of your 3 for this internship, is 2 key reasons. The first is that positive relationships boost resilience and well-being. And the second is that most jobs, about 60 to 85%, are actually found through networking and through your relationships. So we invite you today to kind of think about that. And we're going to introduce you to our panelists who are going to have a discussion about building these mutually beneficial relationships. So we have 3 wonderful panelists. We have Hannah Bollert, Trisha Hungcharty, and Jonathan Day. And the 3 of them are going to share some of their personal stories with you and some of the advice that they've been given. So we'll start with introductions. So Hannah actually worked with me at the UVA Career Center when she was a career peer educator. And I'm gonna pass it to Hannah. Hannah, if you wanna share a little bit about you, your pronouns, and just what you'd like to share with students to start.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah. I use she, her, hers pronouns. And like Laura mentioned, I actually worked at the Career Center when I was at UVA. I graduated in May of 2020, and I studied foreign affairs and Spanish. And I kind of dabbled in a couple different things while I was at UVA. I interned at the State Department and also at the Department of Defense. So I kind of had an interest in policy and international relations for a while. And then I kind of pivoted and I threw my hand in consulting recruiting, and then ended up, I got a job offer from Accenture Federal Services, which is just like the federal arm of Accenture, which is where I am now. I'm doing management consulting work. I'm also on a project related to defense, so kind of continued what I was working on in one of my prior internships. And like Laura mentioned, I worked at the Career Center, and was one of my teams or projects was Virginia Alumni Mentoring, or VAM. So I'm very passionate about relationship building, and I'm very excited to get to talk to all of you.
Wonderful. And Hannah, I'm so excited for you to share your VAM story with students a little bit later. All right, Trisha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Trisha Hung-Chardy. I use any and all pronouns, and I am a 2016 alum of UVA, also Spanish and Foreign Affairs major. And I was also a career peer educator at the Career Center for 2 years. And that's where I figured out that student affairs, or working for a university and serving students, is a whole job. So basically, I just joke with people that, you're saying I can stay in college forever. And some people who are even in res life are like, I'm just going to be an RA forever, basically. So a lot of jobs in student affairs require master's degrees, but I was burnt out from UVA, so I wanted to work before going back to school. So I actually worked at the business school, the Darden Business School, as a global programs coordinator for 3 years after graduating. Fun fact, I've eaten at almost every restaurant in Charlottesville, so if you want recommendations, I've probably been there. And then I just finished my master's degree at the University of Maryland, which is what I've been doing the last 2 years. So graduated last month, and then literally today was my last day at the UMD Career Center, which is where I was working part-time. So like I said, today was literally my last day. So now I'm employed, so I can give you all the best advice about transition. But I'm also intentionally taking a break because this pandemic has wiped us all out. And also, I've just been going my whole life. And if I can take a break, I will take a break. 3 top restaurants. Oh, that is so tough. I should have been prepared for this question because I get this question all the time. I really love, and I think the nice thing too about coming after, living here after graduating, is you get to explore more parts of Charlottesville, not just all the stuff on the corner. Although I will always advocate for the mac and cheese at the Virginian. $5, what a steal for some mac and cheese and that potato cake. But I also really like Our Carbone. I think it's a Peruvian chicken place up 29. And that's another good place that I really like. I also really like Oakhurst Cafe. It's on JPA. I used to live in Woodrow Apartments, and so that was very dangerous that it was across the street. So those are just a couple of things that come to mind. Any good spots to take girls? Is Lampo still open? Lampo is also good. My gosh. Okay, sorry, just reading all these messages now.
You sparked a whole side conversation, Trisha. I think, when Jonathan introduces himself, he's gonna have to share his favorite food from where he is.
Also love
Moss Tapas. I forgot about that one too.
Ooh, Moss is very good.
And then a new place opened after I left, but I went there when I went to visit. I think it's called Farm Bell Kitchen. It's on Main Street. Yeah. So don't ask me about saving money though, because I clearly did not do that. All right, to you, Jonathan.
Wow, that's a tough act to follow up. I will say that Lampo was my favorite when I was at UVA. I've lived in a lot of cities since I graduated. UVA might have had the strongest food scene in terms of just like square miles of amount of food per square miles in the town. So y'all are lucky. Anyways, my name is Jonathan. It's nice to meet everyone. I graduated in 2016 as well. Was also a foreign affairs major. So shout out to the foreign affairs people in here. I worked at Deloitte Consulting at an internship in 2015. Ended up going back there full time for about 2 years afterwards. Figured out that consulting wasn't really my thing. So worked at Facebook in San Francisco, moved out to California in 2018. Was there for about 2 years in product operations. And now I work at AtSpoke, which is a startup, as a product manager. I moved to San Diego last November, mostly because I wanted to surf and try SoCal. So that's why I'm down here. And it's been pretty solid so far. If you have any questions about California, moving, consulting, tech, all that good stuff, I'm your person. So nice to meet everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Trisha and Hannah. So the first question that I have for you all is, how has relationship building positively influenced your career journey? And or you can share your personal journey as well. I'll let whoever wants to start go first.
I can go ahead. I know, especially in student affairs, like there's a saying that like it's such a small field and everyone knows everybody. And I really have found that to be true. And so it is, I have so many stories that especially being a career advisor, like so many package stories that I share about like all these situations that have happened because like I knew somebody or somebody knew me, to kind of turn it what like Laura was saying on the other way of thinking about networking. Very easy example is when I was job searching as I was in my last year at UVA. I loved working in the career center, so I wanted to work in a career center, but I knew that a lot of those positions were going to require master's degrees. So I was looking for maybe like a front desk position gig or something. And I heard from our front desk person, Clay, that, oh my God, not Clay, Chase Clay, sorry. That the front desk person at McIntyre at the comm school front desk was like potentially leaving. So I was like, okay, let me connect with her. So I did, and we talked. It later turned out she stayed in her position, so that didn't work out. And we were connected on LinkedIn. And then like a couple months later, I saw on LinkedIn that she had gotten a new job in like Delaware. So I just liked it on LinkedIn, like, okay, cool, congrats. And then she messaged me like, hey, if you're still interested in my job, it's open now. And I'm like, I actually have a job now, but thank you. So it's just kind of like cool how, just waiting a few months and how a situation can change. So I think that can also make a big difference too, is like sometimes timing. So sometimes like something doesn't pan out right away, but like if you keep in touch with people and people keep you in mind, like you just never know what will happen. The other story I think of is I applied for this job at, you all might know Stratford. I think it's very popular in Northern Virginia. There's a couple of locations, Stratford University. I applied for a job there. Had a phone call with somebody who worked there, who I was connected through Sarah Green at the UVA Career Center. And I didn't get the position, but then the recruiter called me to say that, oh, so-and-so that you spoke to said really good things about you, so we want to consider you for another job. Fast forward, applied for the job, interviewed, got it. But I just thought that was so cool that like this person who I literally had one phone call with like spoke highly of me. So again, just like two short stories about how like you just never know where those conversations can lead, and just taking that extra time that not everybody takes to, show your interest and show that just being proactive. So.
And Trisha, that really illustrates it's not what you know or who you know, but who knows you, like, beautifully. Love it. What about you, Hannah or Jonathan?
I can go next. So I mentioned this in my intro, but I was a foreign affairs major, I guess, like Trisha and Jonathan. And I didn't really have any kind of like connections. Like my parents didn't work in the industry. I knew like no one. And I think by the nature of like federal government work, it's pretty secure and like not a ton of information about like all the ins and outs. So I definitely wanted to talk to people just to like learn a bit more about it and see if I was interested in it. So I talked to a lot of people from the State Department while I was applying for an internship there. And then I actually got the internship and was there the summer of 2018 and got to meet in person a couple people that I met on VAM, Virginia Alumni Mentoring, which was super cool. And then especially like before my fourth year, when I decided to do consulting recruiting, kind of similar thing. I like really didn't know a whole lot about consulting. So I just wanted to hear from some people who were in the industry, again, to see if it was something I was interested in, see how I could well prepare myself for the recruiting that was coming up, and got connected to a few people, Ryan being one of them, who's on this call today. He worked at Accenture, which is where I work now. And he just answered all the questions I had about what is consulting, like why he liked Accenture. And then I ended up going through recruiting, getting a job there, and sent Ryan a text, hey, oh my gosh, I got an offer. And he was like, that's awesome, congratulations. So it was really cool to see that relationship we had built like before I really knew anything about consulting kind of like flourish, and he really like helped me get the job, and I'm really happy where I am today. So I definitely like credit that to him and the power of relationship building. So I think that I have had a really positive experience, and it's influenced my journey just by getting to hear a lot of stories from plenty of different people, especially like with people who have different backgrounds than my own. It's been really helpful.
I love that story, Hannah. Thank you for sharing it. And thank you, Ryan, for being here too. All right, Jonathan, what's your story?
Yeah, those stories are all amazing. I think super important to highlight that whole importance of networking in your professional career. I think for me, the first time that I noticed networking was really important was when I was actually trying to look for internships my third year. I would go to all those consulting functions, and like everybody I think had the same intention, which was to try to get an internship. And I was like, okay, I can either stand in this line and try to talk to the one person who has like 30 kids in line, like, and they're all going to ask them the same question, or I can try to like, you know, move around a little bit and try to meet other people who are here. So I would just start talking to, I remember when I went to the Deloitte coffee chat, I would try to talk to some of the younger employees, and I would just say like, hey, what was your experience like? Have you interned here? Like, what projects are you on? And I found that that was a really easy way for me to not only learn like what they were doing, but also to get a better sense of like, oh, is this something that I would like to do in the long term? So a lot of trial and error through that. I think eventually I found out that networking is less, you know, you go and you ask for a job, and more it's just like, hey, let me learn more about your story and hear a little bit more about how you got there, and see if maybe, you know, there's a conversation we can have down the line, and you know, we can help each other out that way. So yeah, that lesson kind of, you know, took me into consulting. When I was in consulting, I did a lot of networking for projects. When I was at Facebook, I met a lot of different people trying to understand like, hey, you know, what career paths are available to me, which ones are interesting. And I think over time, you eventually learn that like, you know, it's not necessarily the number of connections that you have, but it's really the quality of connections. So it's important to invest the time when you do have a professional connection that is valuable. It's important to invest the time to like get to know them, understand their story, see how you can help them in certain ways, and it's ultimately mutually beneficial. And that definitely came into play when I was looking for jobs during the pandemic. I had a lot of people that I had worked with at Deloitte who are now in different positions, who I worked with at Facebook, some people who had just been at UVA who I haven't talked to in a long time, and always like good conversations to have. You always learn something new. So we definitely recommend just investing in those relationships, and trying to make sure to prioritize quality over quantity.
So thank you, Jonathan. And so for the next question, I'm going to try to combine a few, because in our earlier session today, the biggest feedback we got from students is they wanted more time to actually practice networking. So this next question I'm going to ask is a blend a little bit. So I'm curious, what's the best networking relationship or relationship building advice you've ever been given? And or do you have a story about a time when a networking conversation you initiated turned out differently than you thought? And how did you respond? What did you learn?
First, so I already shared the story about Ryan and about consulting, but I have another one I can share. So when I was applying to the State Department, like I said, I messaged lots of different people on VAM just to try to learn more about it. And I had some pretty successful relationships with that, but then also people who were busy, whatever, didn't respond to me. I maybe reached out to like 7 or 8 people on VAM and on LinkedIn, and then didn't get responses from everyone, and kind of forgot about the people who didn't respond to me. And then flash forward to the next summer, I'm working at the State Department, and there's a guy in my office who went to UVA, and he kind of like brought that up when I was introduced to him. And I was like, oh, like, I think, yeah, maybe like your name sounds familiar, but he was a lot older than me. And I was like, why does his name sound familiar? That's kind of weird. And then I realized that he was like one of the people on VAM who never responded to me. So I thought that was funny that we could meet in person. And then I like tried to casually work it into conversation like later in the week. And then I ended up telling him, I was like, yeah, like I think I like may have reached out to you on VAM, like not sure if he responded. And then he was like, oh, cool. Like, it's actually because like during that whole month, I was like on a trip to Kyrgyzstan for like the human rights work that we were doing. So it was like, and then I kind of like got to hear about this cool trip that he went on. And like, basically that was the reason that he didn't respond. And then he also kind of like felt bad, bought me coffee, and like ended up having a really cool relationship. I met with him a couple times during that summer, and then we're like still in touch today. So I like definitely didn't think that someone who didn't respond to me on VAM would ever like be that impactful in my like professional development, but that was kind of a cool story. And then I guess the first part of the question was like, what do I maybe like wish I knew? I definitely feel like we've all talked about relationship building and networking as like a means to getting a job or getting an internship, but not to sound like too much of a shameless plug for VAM, but you can definitely use it like super early on in your career at UVA. Even if you're just like a first year, you have no idea what you want to major in, you just like want to learn, not necessarily like meet someone who can get you an internship. You just like want to hear about someone's story. Like you don't always have to have a specific like end goal of wanting a job or wanting an internship. When you talk to these people, you can just hear kind of their story and share maybe like some of your interests, but just like more of an exploratory reason to use it too.
And I love that. And in fact, the best time to network or start to build a relationship is when you're not looking for a job, when you are trying to just learn about different things. Because if you start your conversation saying, oh, I'm looking for this kind of job, the immediate next thing that person does is they try to think, do I have this? Can I help them? Do I have it? No, I can't help them. And they kind of shut down. But if you're asking curious questions about them and their career, it opens up some possibilities. So such a great point. I'm curious, Trisha or Jonathan, did either of you have like networking advice you've been given that's been super helpful, or any stories about when things turned out not quite how you thought when you were trying to connect with someone?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Trisha.
No, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think the best piece of advice that I got was to respectfully shoot your shot. And what I mean by that is like, reach out to people on LinkedIn that you might be connected with in terms of like they're UVA alumni, but now they work at like your dream company. Or even if you don't have that warm connection, don't be afraid to just reach out and say like, hey,
eventually I will, but not now because I'm gonna hop on the call.
Don't be afraid to just reach out and be like, hey, your story is really interesting. I'd love to learn more. Do you have time for a quick coffee chat, like 15 minutes or 30 minutes? I've done that a lot over the years, and I would say it's like 1/3 to 1/2 success rate, probably closer to like 35%. But the conversations that I've had have been really interesting, and I've ended up forming great relationships with people that I didn't think I would ever be connected with. And that's just kind of paid off over time because, you realize eventually like there's ways that you can help them, there's ways that they can help you. And it's just always good to have that conversation. And that wouldn't happen if you didn't take that leap and just try to reach out to them and understand what their story is. And when I say respectfully shoot your shot, I don't mean like reach out to them and be like, oh my God, you work at my dream company. Like, can you get me a job, please? But more so just saying, hey, your profile is super interesting. I love the work that you did here. I'd love to learn more about your story. Like, can we chat for a couple minutes? Most people are pretty kind. They'll reach out to you at least to respond. And if they have the time, they usually will try to talk to you, and those conversations can be really interesting.
Awesome. Thank you, Jonathan. Trisha, I think you had one you were going to follow up with.
Yeah, I would just say keep an open mind with who you talk to. Like you never know who knows people. Like, so, you look at my background and you're thinking, okay, she's purely like student affairs. I don't want to work for a university. I don't want to be in education. But because I worked at a business school, I now know a ton of students who have gone on to work for like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, etc. So now I have this whole like business network that I didn't have before, which is interesting. So you just never know. And you also just don't know, like maybe somebody is currently in some field, but they actually had a whole like prior life in another field. Like you never know if somebody's in their second or third job or career. Even what Jonathan said, he went from consulting to now sounds like tech. So you just like never know where people have been or who they might be related to, be married to, know, like, so just being open-minded that like you can almost learn something from anybody. So just being really open with those conversations and not just like wondering, because I know that happened to me when I was part of this leadership program. And I remember I was very confused why they matched me with a certain person because it didn't seem like we had anything in common. And that was some advice given to me, was like, just keep an open mind because like you just never know based on solely their resume or whatever, that you think you know everything about them. You just never know their story. So
Trisha, that is such a great transition into our networking breakout rooms next. So like students, what you're going to notice is we have done our best. We accounted for the industry interests that you shared with us, but it's not always a perfect science or a perfect match. So we did our best to accommodate your interests, but we highly, highly encourage you to get curious about the person you're talking to, because you never know who they might know. Just like Trisha mentioned, you don't know who's in their network. And also, who's in your fellow interns networks? You all are doing internships across a variety of different industries. We have sustainability, marketing, business, consulting, research, so many different areas. So you may think you're going to find an answer to one of your questions with an alum day, but it might turn out it's the student next to you that actually their like siblings, cousins, brother did this thing that you're curious about, and you can connect with them. So I would just like to take a moment to, if we can, either with emojis or if you want to unmute and just clap or say thank you, let's give a big round of applause to our panelists for sharing with you today. Thank you, Hannah, Trisha, and Jonathan. We so appreciate you sharing your stories. I only wish we had more time to hear more of your stories. So thank you so much. And what we're going to do next is we're going to transition into actual breakout rooms. And remember, this is an introduction. This is an opportunity to start to build relationships. We got feedback from students who did our earlier session today that it felt so fast. That must mean you're having some good conversations, but it's true. It's going to feel fast. You're going to be in a group. So we encourage you, this is just the start of a conversation, and we encourage you to continue that conversation beyond today, to continue to build those relationships. Also, this is a side note, there might have been some shuffling, sometimes some last minute changes come up. So if you're in a new room with an alum that you didn't know you're going to be paired with, like Trisha said, have an open mind, ask curious questions, and be open to possibilities. So I'm going to put in, we have a conversation guide. I believe we sent this out to everybody before these sessions, but I'm just going to paste that in here so everybody has it. So these are some questions to help you get the conversation started. And in just a second, we are going to open up those breakout rooms. So I guess Lizzie and Kyle, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to open the rooms and you're going to receive an invitation to officially join the room. So go ahead and click that. We may have had some weird things happen with email addresses for alums and students if you were not pre-assigned a room. So just hang back with us. We'll get you assigned to a room as soon as possible. But I will go ahead and open and enjoy your conversations.
So welcome back, everyone. I'm gonna restart the recording again. So we're just gonna have a quick debrief. One of my favorite quotes, again, about relationship building is from Maya Angelou. And it's, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So I'm really curious in the chat, if you just want to share, how do you feel right now? What was that experience like for you? I'd love to hear it. Students and alumni, welcome too. It's neat, motivated, hopeful, sweet, supported, insightful. Oh, it makes me more excited about job searches in the future. Awesome, Kella, that's great. And you have the whole Career Center team to support you with that too. Motivated. I love this one. John Bennett is a cool dude. That's a really good thing to walk away with. Thanks, John. Encouraged. I feel reassured about various educational career paths one can take. Encouraged connectivity. Disappointed that this info isn't more accessible. Hey, Morgan, we are working on that. One of my amazing students that I work with, Nina, is here, and we are working on making this more accessible to UVA students. So if you all have any ideas around that, feel free to email me, because we are really trying to make this as accessible as possible. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everyone. This is great. So I just want you to take a moment, students and alumni included, just take a moment to think about what's one next step that you'd like to take to continue to build mutually beneficial relationships in your life. And if you'd like, I invite you to put that in the chat. But while you think about that, I'm also going to give you all a super easy next step that you can all do. And it is join our Virginia Alumni Mentoring Program. So that's the virtual online mentoring community that Hannah was mentioning a lot. It's basically a wonderful group of UVA alumni who've raised their hand and said, hey, I want to help support UVA students. It's alumni like our panelists, like the alumni you connected with today. And it's a really great opportunity to connect and make connections and start to grow those relationships. And then also, if you are curious, I want to emphasize that relationship building, networking, it is a skill. We just did a very, very short session today. This is a skill you're going to continue to develop over time. So if you'd like more resources and additional information, things like what's the best way to reach out for a informational interview or networking conversation, you can use our Who's Guide. The UVA Career Center has a Who's Guide, and I believe, Lizzie, you might have that ready to throw in the chat, please. You also have your internship guide, so you can use either of those resources to help improve your relationship building skills. And we're here to support you, so we're happy to meet with you if you'd like to talk to us about it. And then also remember, as part of your internship program, the second component of the relationship building professional development is for you to actually go on BAM and look for a UVA alum you'd like to have an informational interview with, having a curious conversation with them, and having that discussion with them. So again, if you have any questions about that, we are here to support you. But great job today. And before we close, I would love if everybody could just please say thank you or use emojis, but please thank the wonderful UVA alumni who volunteered their time to spend with you today. UVA alumni, we are so grateful for you. We couldn't have done it without you. And we're just super excited that you're eager to support students. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So, wow, guys, we are right on time. So at this next juncture, if anyone would like to stay for the optional networking in breakout rooms, we're going to open up some rooms. We would love to get your feedback on how this session went. So if you do have a minute, it's just a few questions to hear. Hey, how was this session? Did you find it helpful? Should we continue to do it in the future? Both students and alumni, we'd like to hear from all of you. And then I guess, Lizzie and Kyle, did you have anything else you wanted to share before we transition into the open networking?
No, I was just going to say, again, I'm going to recreate all rooms. And so if you would like to stay for optional networking, you're welcome to do so. There might be some shuffling that's happening as we're kind of transitioning to that point. So don't be surprised if you get moved all of a sudden. We're just trying to make it a good experience for everyone. But I think that's all on my end.
Oh, and big thank you to Kyle and Lizzie for the amazing breakout room management that has been going on behind the scenes. So thank you both.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to open up the rooms and yeah, enjoy this last little bit of networking.
And I'm going to end recording now. If you're watching this at home, thanks for watching.
Yeah. All right, it looks like a